submission is from Airsoft New Zealand. We have Ben Allen here.
Hey, how you doing?
Morning. Good, thank you. Please, so as per the previous submissions, we have 15 minutes.
Yep.
The floor is yours. Great if you can allow some time for questions within that.
I'll try and speak clearly. Hi, I'm Ben. Thanks for allowing me to speak to you today. Appreciate that. I'm here to speak on behalf of Airsoft and Airsoft New Zealand, which is an incorporated society, or known as ASNZ. So what is Airsoft? You may not know. Basically, it's a sport similar to paintball, if you're familiar with that. Often we do dress up and run around like pretending to be army men. We're a little weird, but that's all good. It's fun. My wife laughs at me all the time.
We sometimes sort of do that in this place as well.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, we play on private land and we stay out of the public eye because we understand that people could get confused about what we're doing. But we do that purposely because we don't want to scare anyone. But we're basically just a big bunch of geeks running around pretending to be something we're not. So typically we play capture the flag type games. If you're familiar with paintball, it's the same game, we just use a different platform, so airsoft guns. So airsoft guns are specifically designed to fire non-lethal projectiles at a low velocity. They're designed for gaming. They're designed in Japan back in the 80s for this, to not cause harm. They fire 6mm plastic balls. They do not fire lead pellets or slugs like other air rifles or real bullets, and they cannot be modified or made to do so. They're plastic generally and full of gearboxes, and so they can't fire real bullets or be turned into a real gun. Unlike real firearms, so they're operated with either battery and an electric motor, or gas like a paintball gun, or a spring. Unlike real firearms, which use an explosive force. So in terms of power, airsoft has less kinetic energy than paintball. If any of you play paintball or you have family that has. Internationally, airsoft is a fast-growing sport with a huge following in Europe, Asia, and North America. So in New Zealand, Airsoft Sports New Zealand Incorporated, or ASNZ, we represent 24 clubs throughout the country. And there are also a number of other clubs and commercial sites that are not affiliated to Airsoft New Zealand, but we try to keep in touch with them. The purpose of ASNZ is to promote airsoft and to keep the sport a safe place and provide guidance on setting a common set of rules so it's a safe place and a safe game to play. We've worked with both New Zealand Police and New Zealand Customs over many years to ensure we maintain a good relationship based on mutual trust and understanding. So that's a little bit about airsoft. In terms of the law, so in New Zealand, airsoft guns are categorised as an air gun under the Act. So because they resemble a real firearm, they look scary, they're further categorised as a restricted air gun due to their appearance. I don't believe it is your intention to ban airsoft or paintball. A press release from the Police Minister's office is clear of the intent of the type of weapons that are being targeted in the amendment. I'm not here to speak on behalf of real firearm owners or pretend to represent their views. I'm solely focused on airsoft and paintball sports. My concern is that there's no clause in the current draft amendment which excludes parts for restricted air guns. So just because they have the appearance of a prohibited part, so sights, stocks, grips, magazines, etc. So our fear is that due to the appearance rather than their functionality, police and customs may take a conservative approach and apply that definition for prohibited firearms parts and apply that to airsoft and paintball parts, which are specifically designed for airsoft and paintball. We have in the past been unintentionally impacted from changes to the Act due to unclear definitions being applied across the board to airsoft and paintball. So the impact of this was only rectified following the 2012 amendment, where we worked with police and customs and government, and we managed to get a airsoft and paintball reclassified under a new definition, restricted air gun. Before that, we were lumped into the same category as MSSAs and all sorts of other horrible things, because our airsoft guns had the appearance of a real firearm. So airsoft parts cannot withstand the recoil and etc. from a real firearm. So even if you did attach a sight, for example, on a real firearm, it would immediately become damaged and useless as a functional sight because it's not designed to take the impact and forces from a real firearm. So grips and stocks, etc. And an airsoft gun, they're designed to hold the motor and batteries or a gas cylinder to operate the airsoft gun. So generally they're made of cheap plastic or lightweight materials. If you could attach these to a real firearm, which in many cases I don't think you would physically be able to, but if you could, they would not withstand the impact and forces and recoil of a real firearm, even if you could attach it. So what we would like to see included in the amendment is an exemption in the prohibited parts clause for parts. I'll use the wording already in there. Designed for use in airsoft and paintball sports or restricted air guns.
Is it part of 2C?
Yeah. So I've got something I can get passed around for you later.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Or a definition to be provided that excludes these parts for restricted air guns designed for use in airsoft and paintball sport. Okay, so I've got a recommending, I will pass it around, but for example, under section 2.1, I think it says, designed or intended to be used as an integral part, ABCD. If we had an exclusion or a clause that specifically says this is not intended to affect airsoft and paintball, it's for real
Are
firearms.
you talking about in the current Arms Act or in the proposed bill?
In the proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pass this around for you later. So section 2B in the meaning, so prohibited magazine, it talks about, clearly it's talking about real firearms. If you're familiar with paintball, you get there's a big bubble on top, the hopper, that you pour like 100 paintballs in.
Yep.
If you limited us to 5 paintballs, it would
No fun.
kill a game, yeah. Same with the airsoft, we have magazines that look like a magazine, but they're plastic, you couldn't turn it into a real firearm magazine.
Basically, it sounds, sorry.
Yeah.
It sounds awfully like what you're talking about is like big water pistols for
Nerf guns,
older
yeah,
boys and girls.
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And baby.
But yeah, basically, we just want to ensure that we're not
Yeah.
turned into a criminal because the police, because of unclear definitions, the police and customs take a,
I think there's a lot of support for you.
yeah, so I appreciate it. And also if we could get in the general purpose of the statement at the beginning of the amendment, where it says a list of firearms that are commonly used in farming, hunting, recreational activities, etc. If we could just insert a clause that says, and restricted air guns designed for airsoft and paintball. And further down, the exemption says, bill inserts new provisions following licensed dealers, theatrical companies, and airsoft and paintball sports. So that's all I've got to say. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Ben.
I will
Very,
provide.
very clear submission.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of questions. Chris
Well,
Bishop.
my question was just, I think there's general support for what you're saying.
Yeah.
How would you propose to do it, which you've done? I think it's actually reasonably straightforward, to be honest. I think you just put it in the definition section to say other than, X, Y, Z used for,
No, that'd be awesome.
soft and blah, blah, blah. So
I'm sure we were
I
top
think
of your
we-
mind.
I think we can work that through it.
Yeah.
But do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I did. Kia ora, Ben. Thank you
Hey.
for your submission.
No problem.
So I appreciate that you're going to be distributing more information to us, and I also appreciate that you are seeking to have exclusion for paintball and airsoft parts. But you're concerned about being unintentionally caught up in these
Yeah,
changes as a result of the appearance of this. So would the criteria look like the materials that these parts are composed of? In terms of, so you're speaking to how airsoft and paintball parts are made of plastic.
I mean, you could buy aluminium parts or whatever. Some people like to spend the extra money on their toys, but they're not designed for a real firearm.
Could they be altered though?
Possibly, but they're made of so for the pistol grip, for
Yeah.
example, and an airsoft gun, I don't know what a real one is. I don't know firearms. I don't have no intention of getting one. I imagine there's a big solid screw or bolt that holds it to the receiver. In an airsoft gun, there's 4 tiny little screws. We strip these all the time. It's a pain in the butt. They're really fiddly because the pistol grip is hollow and it's designed to take a motor, like you'd put in a remote control car or something, because that's what drives the gearbox, which turns the piston and compresses the engine. So you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, recognising how these parts are quite different, but there is theoretically potential if somebody wanted to invent a way to bring these parts together to use them for illicit means. I'm just wondering, you know, is there an appetite within the airsoft or paintball community, yourself representing the airsoft community, to work constructively to ensure that there were those boundaries well established?
And already in the act there's some exemptions for the real stuff. But at the moment, if we want to import an airsoft gun, we apply for a permit. It goes to the police. We have to have a special reason. I explained it in this written submission. Then we get a certificate, we go to customs, then we can bring it in. Ideally, we don't want to have to do that for replacement parts because they're plastic, they break all the time. But yeah, like we've worked with police and customs for years. Years ago, we were working with customs, giving them batteries and chargers so they could test these things as they came in to make sure they were within the law, and we're be more than happy to work with police to make sure that
You're comfortable on the balance of safety.
You're comfortable with the import process now,
At the moment, it works. It's a long process, and it seems a little bit ridiculous that what we have to go through from a real firearm is a little bit different, but whatever, we're happy we get to run around in the weekend and play.
Kerry, was yours an additional question? Or
No, it's been done. Thank you very much. Appreciate
We
it.
should do a committee visit to.
You'll be more than welcome.
You can give us a handful.
Red versus blue.
Gallery versus.
Hey, don't underestimate Graham's
Christmas party, maybe.
I understand. Look, well, thank you for your submission. We'll certainly be looking into these issues. I hope that one of the things you can take away is that the part of the purpose of this bill is to be defining MSSAs by capability and capacity rather than the sort of stylistic and appearance issues which perhaps have been a problem for you in the past. We'll
and I
speak to our
appreciate
officials about this.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you want me to pass that around or email it?
So what is it? We've got your submission.
Just
It's
recommendations for wording.
Yeah, if you could just pass it to our clerk over here and we'll receive that. Thank you for that.
Correct. Likewise, too, the Airsoft people, described memorably by Ben Allen, the president of Airsoft New Zealand, as just a bunch of geeks running around in the bush pretending to play soldiers. They will be unaffected as well. And I think that is appropriate. And likewise, paintball competitions. The committee, unfortunately, did not take up my suggestion of a press gallery finance and expenditure committee paintball game. Maybe that's something we can do once we pass the third reading.